Welcome back. You're still watching You Special. On the show today, we're exploring the School of Planning and Architecture. The first half of the show, we spent talking to students, exploring the campus. The second half, we're sitting at Space Matters. You might see a slight difference in the age group that we're talking to now, and that's because we caught up with a bunch of alumni. They've spent their years at SPA. We're now going to be talking to them about what after. Before we get into any of that, college, and what did it mean to you?
Yeah, it meant basically it took over your life. Your entire life eventually, right when you join college, it had this thing of kind of taking you completely. So anyone I met from SPA basically spent that was their center of their world.
See, I stayed in Vasant Kunj, went to school in Vasant Vihar. I mean, without realizing it, you have such an insular lifestyle. And you get thrown at ITO hostel. There are a bunch of people from all over, and half of them hate Delhi. But you start exploring it like you've come to the city for the first time,
With architecture, since she mentioned it's a cocoon, it's a family. You spend all your time, day and night. There's something known as a submission and there's something known as a night out, where you spend the entire night trying to come up with a submission for the next day. So you tend to go to these places which are open at night, such as the Paratha Wala, which is right next to the newspaper publishing houses.
Frags,
which is across the road. So you eat at all sorts of places, have your upset stomachs.
Okay, do you still get nightmares of like having to do that submission and give it the next day?
No, totally zoned out of that. Right. That's one thing, I think ever since I've gotten out of college, I can really count the number of nights I've spent up working. I spent one working in this office because they were way back. They were just way back, but yes, I do a 9 to 5.
Before we actually came here, we've been to one of your studios where they were submitting their pre-final project, and they were all worked up because teachers were evaluating them at that point. Do you remember your time when you gave in your project?
They were crazy days, actually. We just, more often than not, we were late. And I don't know, talking about food, actually, the hostel food, and especially in Mahanadi Bagh, even both places, I used to stay awake at night, and my motivation was that breakfast khake so jaunga main. So even if you don't go to the class.
And how important a role do the teachers play in this learning process? Do you have any interesting stories about faculty that you might have encountered over the years while you were there for 5 years?
Well, one particular faculty I came across had a very interesting laugh, and he was at it all the time without taking any names. And he really influenced us as a batch, because that was third year for us. And he came in and he filled us up with projects, projects ranging from building on the moon to building on the Arctics or one of the polar caps. And that really changed our perception of things, and it acted as a stimulant towards what we are doing today.
Right, we have Asim over here. Asim, you go back even today and you're a faculty there. You teach off and on. Do you notice a huge difference in what it was like back in your time and now?
There are lots of differences. All places are sort of bound to change, and...
Is it something you decided back then, that maybe teaching future generation of...
No, I was sick of college by the end. My 5th year was...
And you decided you will never go back, but yet we see you going back there today and teaching.
Yeah, okay. That's true.
We're going to get back to talking to alumni from SPA, but how many of you out there know that an entire film was made based on the School of Planning and Architecture and the students' lives over there? It was quite a cult film based in the 1970s. We go check it out.
It was set in a period slightly earlier from the time I was there, but it was really that period of the 70s where you had a lot of dope smoking, bell-bottom wearing, slightly confused characters. Very interesting, but very confused. It's not about insulating yourself, but placing yourself in the picture. And also, exploring a different kind of language, a different kind of humor, things like that.
Hey, Andy! Good! Attendance नहीं लेना है. Good class.
What I liked about it was that it was so made with some, 8 lakhs or something. All the credits were written by me. Everything was so sort of ragged at the edges, and that was lovely about it. It's not some slick production about downbeat people. It's actually a downbeat production about downbeat people.
I got it 70%. 70. Navleen 63.
I remember when we were shooting it, sometime in an outdoor location, crowds used to gather and, they used to ask, ye kaun si film ka shooting chal raha bhai? So if you said, in which channel is it those ones, people would be a bit puzzled. So we sort of used to say those ones, which was, still puzzling. One guy sort of said, I said those ones, and he sort of said, acha. So, and then another guy came and asked him, ye kaun si film ka shooting chal raha hai? And he said, Do Jawan. So we used to call it Do Jawan, Dono Parishan, the film. I mean, like our Hindi word for the film
Those
is
of you
that.
who want quicks first, stay. The rest of you can go and guzzle your dishwater in the canteen.
There was something unambitious about it, in a way. It was just something where everything came together, worked, and went away.
Is this some kind of a new fashion?
No, sir. I'm just trying to stand out in the crowd.
Molshri, Amrita, Suditya and Madhav have their own startups. You started up an architecture firm called Space Matters and you've got Anagram Architects. How difficult, or what was that first step like? Is this something you decided when you were in your years of college that we'll do our own thing? No. Or how did the process start?
Well, to be honest, we were pushed into the project, into architecture with this one very interesting project we won. And that kind of put us forward.
When I was training, I pretty much realized that I was working in a very small firm, and I enjoyed myself there. It's not like I had a bad time, but I realized that that's what I wanted to do. And it was a very foolhardy step when I started. That's what college doesn't equip you as such with skills, but it teaches you a lot about, there's politics, you have to sell your ideas to a faculty, so there are skills that it equips with you.
And they say never work with friends, but have you guys managed to keep that friendship going while you run a firm together?
When you stay up and work through the night and just see each other day in and day out, you just get equipped.
So basically those submissions and staying up.
One very important thing that college teaches you is surviving, is the art of survival, where the night out that we are having, or is it the bad faculty or the good faculty, you're being judged constantly, and that's something that SPA instills in you through the 5 years.
Right, okay. In contrast to what the four of them do over here, we also have Siddharth, who works in a firm. You don't have a practice of your own, but you're working under that firm. How much of a difference is it, going to an office and working in a firm as compared to having your own thing?
I think the biggest difference is that you're not choosing the projects you're working on.
Right.
Besides that, if you jump into a firm, it's very good because you get experience like no one else.
Is it very, very commercial, that individuality that you have when you're in college, and now you say that you're not allowed to choose projects? Do you have to be designing specific kind of things? Is it very commercial, unless you of course have a thing of your own?
It's not that limiting really. There is a lot of creativity and also different ways that goes into the situation.
Right.
You deal with situations, and actually the amount of coordination that you have to do is intense. You have to really coordinate things across consultants, across deadlines, clients. It teaches you. It's in a way you're doing it and you're learning things at somebody else's expense, really.
Right. Okay. When the people who aren't learning at the cost of other people, would you guys recommend working at a firm just to get the feel of it before you think of starting off your own thing?
All of us, I think, at some stage of... I started working in a larger firm, and then finally moved on towards our own practice.
So how much capital are you looking at before you can seriously, in Delhi 2008, think of starting off something of your own? How much of a...
It's very difficult to start off your own
practice. What would you be looking at,
practice.
as in, what should you have in place before you even think of it?
What should we have in place? You should first of all have patience and a good architectural mind.
Right.
You should be able to...
I think now it's a little cutthroat, so you need to have a business mind as well. A lot of times, I think initially we could get away with just being the artist that we are, but now it's pretty tough with the market to... you can't just design. You should know how to sell the design and get the money for it.
Right.
Which, again, coming back to SPA, doesn't
Which is something
teach.
that you said is not taught in our architecture schools. You're never taught
We
management.
learn accounts or management or HR or things like that. So go on.
No, you have to be very clear what objective you're starting with. Because what happens then eventually you're saying art, and then you're not making money. Then you say money, and it's a diluted version of both. So I would say like a primary thing is patience, and then your objective should be really clear because things take time. Essentially, even now, like now it's cutthroat, but everyone's building, so there's work. At one point, it was not so cutthroat, but no one was building, so even the bigger firms lacked.
Asim, you've been to SPA, you also go there to teach, and you're not a practicing architect at the moment, but you're into filmmaking and art. How difficult is it to do a sort of streamlined course like architecture and then branch off into a field? Are they somewhat related?
Actually, it's not a streamlined course at all. Like Sudi was also saying, we're taught. It's about aesthetics of everything.
So you're sort of taught art appreciation or filmmaking?
Yeah, definitely. And also architecture, the advantage architecture has over, say, traditional art schools is that there's a lot of project sort of orientation. Like even when we are working on projects, there are lots of people who help us, our juniors or even our seniors. Like I've helped him, in his thesis and whatever. And those, getting all those different people working together, that's like the teamwork, this thing, which is the essential role an architect plays actually in a project outside. Is getting lots of different people together to.
Right. So for a lot of students out there, you can be joining an SPA but not wanting to definitely be getting into an architecture firm. You can do.
As a matter of fact, today, since the market has opened up, today a person graduating from architecture can go on to becoming a project manager, can go on to becoming an architectural assistant, can go on to becoming a photographer. Anything, graphics, anything, because SPA to me would be is a place that sharpened my skills in aesthetics.
Right, so from the hostel lives to the parties, the nightmare of dealing with those submissions to coming to real life, dealing with clients, pitching those ideas. We've explored the lives of some of these architects. If you have a story to tell on your campus or want to tell us what you thought of the show, write to us at metronation@ndtv.com. You've been watching You Special. Until next time, bye-bye.